Very welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching us from around the world. This is the Inspired Family Leader Program with Samuel A. Bakutana, your host, a certified executive coach, an award-winning leadership consultant, a global speaker and author, the CEO of Inspired Leaders International, and the national president of the Fathers Union in Uganda. What a joy to have you here watching this very important program that seeks to challenge, equip, and inspire and encourage and resource and retool every man, wherever he is, to expand his own family leadership capacity for national transformation. Values. What are these things? Do they matter? Must a man put in an effort to have them? Can values feed him? And in moments when the heat is on, must he continue to struggle to maintain those values in his life or not? Today, we are talking about becoming a man of values. Becoming a man of values. And with me today in the studio is a man of values. A man known for not only speaking about values, but living his life by a set of well-known values. Somebody who has decided to proclaim this quote-unquote gospel of values across the country and beyond. The former Army commander of the Uganda People's Defense Force, former member of the East African Legislative Assembly, one who in the past led the Forum for Democratic Change as a party president, and just 2 years ago stood for the President of the Republic of Uganda on the ticket of the Alliance for National Transformation, the retired General Mugisha Muntu in the studio. Very welcome, General.
Thank you.
What a joy to have you here today.
My pleasure.
How are you doing?
Quite well.
Quite well?
Yeah.
Does quite well mean on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is very badly and 10 very excellently? where does quite well fall? At 6, 7, 8 or?
We're around 8, 9.
Around 8, 9. I think that's good enough, you know.
Though there may not be consensus on what doing well means. To some it means something different.
Oh yes.
To others it means something different.
Indeed.
But to me, as long as I am at peace, I'm well.
As long as you are at peace.
Yes.
You know, recently one of my colleagues at my workplace at Inspired Leaders International, Jesse Ineriona, shared with us a story of how they were at a Rotary Club meeting recently, and the guest was speaking about the topic of peace.
Yes.
So at the beginning, before he could speak, he said, "Are Ugandans at peace?" Then he kept quiet.
Yes.
And somebody quickly said, "Of course. After leaving this meeting, I will go and reach my home and nobody will touch me." So Ugandans are at peace.
I think you was about a different type of peace. I also talking about different type of peace.
And then another person immediately raised the hand and said, there are people who are sleeping on an empty stomach. I don't think they are at peace. So by the time he started to speak, after like 3 minutes of just keeping quiet and letting the audience speak, somehow majority had said, "I don't think we are at peace." So when you say, as long as you are at peace, you are well, we may want to ask about the peace.
You know, I mean, there is peace in terms of an environment in which you are living.
Yeah.
You know, at peace in terms of you can drive and get home and you're not robbed and things like that. That is a form of peace. That's in terms of an environment. But I'm just about a different kind of peace. Being at peace is even when you're going through turbulence. Yeah. But if you're at peace, that's it's something which is innate in all of us.
Yeah.
By the grace of God, when you get to understand it and you cultivate it, you'll find that whatever kind of storms you may be going through, you are still at peace.
Yeah.
That's the kind of peace I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't get to understand that, and by God's grace cultivate it, you really be in a state of turmoil all the time, because there are so many things happening all around us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. I think that's what makes the difference between joy and happiness. Somebody told me that happiness is a result of happenings, things that are going on around us. Happenings bring happiness, or its lack thereof. But joy is an internal reality. It comes from who somebody really is within. So I think you can't be at peace if internally there is no joy. And joy is not happiness, because happiness is all about what happens outside, sometimes good, sometimes bad.
See, most times we respond to what is around us,
Yeah.
the physical things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face.
Yeah.
It's a complicated world we live in.
I hear you. Well, I would like you to please look into the camera and greet our viewers this wonderful time.
Let me first thank you, Samuel, for hosting me, and thank Family TV for hosting me tonight. And I greet you all, and thank you, all those who are viewing us tonight, for put aside your time to watch this program. May the good Lord richly bless you.
So it's a joy to have you this wonderful moment. You know, I've tried to look for you to have you here, but because of the many things that are on your shoulders, it's been quite some hard work. I am glad that finally here we are on this program for men and leaders of families.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So today we are talking about becoming a man of values. Becoming a man of values. Already when we said becoming, it's talking about a process of sorts. It's talking about a journey of sorts. To begin with, what exactly are values?
Well, values is, I think, a set of beliefs or principles by which an individual, an organization can choose to live by.
Yes.
They are not tangible.
You can't touch them, you can't see them.
Yes. And that's why at times you hear people who say, do we eat values? I mean, like, you can't touch honesty.
Yeah.
You can't touch fairness. You can't touch justice.
You can't touch integrity.
You can't touch integrity.
Faithfulness.
Yes, but they are there. And they are the foundation on the base of which any society can progress and be at peace with itself at the same time. Even at individual levels, there's no way you can lack, if you don't live a value-driven life, I have a feeling that you live in conflict internally.
Yeah.
Because it's inherent within us to know what is right, what is wrong.
Because of the conscience we have.
Because of the conscience we have. And when you walk the path of values, you can have external problems, yes, external challenges, but then you won't be conflicted internally. And that's very, very important. But it's a choice.
Of course. You have already mentioned that it is a set of beliefs or principles that a person chooses to live by. So it's a choice, it's a decision.
It's a choice, It's a choice, yes. And again, it's inherent within us all human beings, basically. Because those of us who are believers, as the word says, God created us in His own image.
Yeah.
So inherent within us, we know what is right, we know what is wrong. And again, people who do things which are wrong, which are hurtful to others, it's not that they don't know, they know. Most times they know. Except those who have reached a point where their conscience is dead. People always know. So it's a journey. Now, the toughest situation you find is when the moral fabric of society has broken down. Because you have the secular world, you have the spiritual world. Even in countries where they are not necessarily believers or Christians or anything, traditions, normally, in traditional societies, there are certain do's and don'ts. And most times the do's are rooted in values.
The values of that society.
That society.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So values are actually not a religious phenomenon, it's just a human reality.
Yes, it's a human reality.
Because sometimes when a talk on values is on the table, on the floor, many people tend to think of, religion, spirituality, and so on and so forth. Rarely do they connect this to even traditional norms. And
if you investigate languages, you find like proverbs. Quite a number of proverbs really speak out on values. Like say, if you look at in the West, where they tell you a man changes on his bed, but not on his tongue. That's a value.
Yes.
It basically means that when you give someone your word, that's it.
They should take it to the bank.
Yes. That's a value.
And a strong one.
But I don't think it must be as old as possible, the Banyankore Machiga traditions, whatever it's rooted.
Yeah.
There are quite a number of those.
So you realize
in every community, in every language, you find proverbs that basically were used to develop children as they grow up. And therefore they become the bedrock on the basis of which a society will be moving in a correct direction. Most times they'll be talking about people not stealing, people not being deceptive in word,
not
being reliable, being honest. Hardworking. It's critical for any society, any society which is not built on the basis of values is I think a highly vulnerable society. It's almost directionless. It means that it's like the water lilies. These water lilies we see on the lakes, because they are very shallow, in terms of their roots, and they are on water.
They are always taken around.
The moment
around.
wind comes, whichever direction the wind is blowing, that's where they will go. So basically a society which doesn't have values is highly vulnerable.
And that proverb you've just shared, that a man changes on his bed, not on his tongue. It's amazing, because this is a men's program largely. It's amazing that in that context, they were equating real manhood with a life of values.
Because see, like in the past, there was unfortunately for us here, for some strange reason I've never understood why this part of sub-Saharan Africa, we are not developed writing. So there will be no agreement. So basically a man's word to another
was a signature. As long as he says, okay, I will give you this, and they shake hands. A handshake meant something.
That's it.
Wow.
Now, a society where there are no values, even now in modern society where we have paper, we can sign documents. Now, even when there's a signed document, there are so many cases in court. They are signed documents. But the people don't stand by what
somebody denies it, says I'm not the one who signed that. It looks like my signature because they forged it. I'm not the one who signed.
Basically, that shows you that it's not even a question of whether someone has signed or not. It's a question of values. Do you stand by what you promised?
That leads me to ask, what really determines a man's values? Where does a man get these values from that he lives by? What determines somebody's values?
So society, when you find a society which has developed values over a long period of time, then you find that families are the ones which participate in, inculcating these values in the children as they grow up. And eventually, when school systems, educational systems started, the formal education system, then you'd find it in the educational system as well. Then in the religious institutions, churches, in mosques. Now, in the past, before there were churches and mosques, there used to be initiation ceremonies, literally in all societies, where you find that young people at a certain age would be taken and they would be trained in different ways, in skills, how to hunt, how to do this, how to do that, how to be brave, how to be courageous, all that. And that's the way, because I think to a certain extent, at a certain age, that's when it is easier to absorb these value systems and live by them.
Another proverb comes to mind when you say that.
Yes.
That a stick is always bent when it is still young.
When it is old, it just
and you try to bend it, it breaks.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So societal norms determine a man's values.
Yes.
One's family background may determine his values.
Yes. And the society.
Yes, the formal education that one received, the schools he went to, the teachers he was exposed to will determine his values. Even his religious beliefs will determine his values. So for us to get a few more examples of values, let's get a little bit personal here. What are some of your personal values in life?
Well, I believe in honesty and fairness. Because really, when you go deep down, you find that every human being wants good things done to them.
To them?
Yes.
But him doing them to others?
That's when there is a problem. So when you do analysis, you need to ask yourself, if I want this thing done for me or to me, because it's good, it's desirable. And the other person, therefore, would also be expecting the same thing. So there must be reciprocation in a sense.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely.
I give you good, you give me good.
Yes. And I think the word says, do unto others as you do want done unto you.
Yeah, the golden rule.
The golden rule. Yeah.
So you believe in honesty and fairness.
Absolutely. I mean, something that simple like the golden rule, because even in the corporate world, in a number of countries where it is, at least talked about, whether it's practiced or not fully is a different matter.
Yeah.
But you can imagine if all societies, just that one rule on a global scale was being practiced, I can tell you there would be peace in the whole world.
Yes.
Something that simple.
Simple things tend to be complicated to implement.
Yeah.
Wow. Honesty and fairness.
Yeah.
How do you arrive at them? How did you arrive at these values to make them your personal values for your
I'm not
life?
so sure here I can say. As I grew up, I found that's how I felt. Yeah.
You may.
I think there are things which are
tempting some people who are viewing to start to think that these values are just inborn. If you either have them or you don't have them. So
no.
When you
I think they are inherent in all of us. All of us know what is right, what is wrong. Oh, yeah. So, but as you grow, there are things. I suppose there are things you concentrate on most. And as he said, whatever you focus on grows or expands.
It expands for you.
It expands, yes. So along the way, you may find that you are attracted to move in a certain direction. If for example, like for me, I found myself walking the journey mostly of politics. Not only here in Uganda. When I was in primary school, I would be reading and listening to news and following everything that was going on in Latin America, in Vietnam, everywhere all over the world.
In a primary school, and you're listening to news about Vietnam
and things. Because there was a war. I mean, war going on there, and you try to understand why should people treat others that way. In Rhodesia, in South Africa. And what would make me feel so incensed most times would be, how can human beings treat others that way? Even when they were so far removed. But you'd more or less find as if you were in that situation.
Yes.
And therefore you'd get a sense that you stand by those who are oppressed. And therefore, I think as I grew up, that's why the issues of justice, of fairness, became stronger and stronger as a motive force that, is able to propel me even when I'm in very, very difficult external conditions, in different, challenging I think values are like fuel. Like you say, petrol.
Yes.
You may have a new car and a super engine, but if you don't have fuel, you aren't going to.
You are going nowhere.
You're going nowhere. You're going to be packed, remain packed.
Wow.
And I think it's the fuel that motivates us to do things, regardless of what circumstances we are operating within.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm talking about tough external circumstances that always train us and they test our values.
Yeah.
I think about 2 years ago I saw a certain situation that you were involved in that I want to believe, me watching from a distance, it was a good test of your values. And there is a way you beautifully went through the experience, and I looked at you and I was quite amazed. It was when you were on the campaign rally.
Yes.
And you reached, I don't remember which place that was, up country. And you were intercepted by the forces. And they did not want you to move on. And I remember they came close, you came close and you looked at each other. I looked at your face and I knew this was a test of your values, and you just shook your head and moved away. When you moved away, I said, look at success, flying colors on the values front.
Yeah,
You remember that day?
A few times. I think we bumped into that in Entebbe, in Kamwenje, in Kasese, and I think Bunyangabu. But about 4 or 5 such experiences. But we're going through tough times in our environment here, the political environment.
Yeah.
At that time, it was, yeah.
So right now, there could be a man watching who is asking himself, why do I have to go through all this hassle? Can't I live my life the way I want? If there is a deal on the table, even if money is not mine, as long as I can get it, I use it, I need money. If it is telling a lie, I can tell the lie and move on. If it is going to give me something I need, why do I have to struggle and live under some sort of like a bridle? So maybe talk about it. Why are these values really important, particularly in a man's life, a man's life? Why are values very important? Why the hustle?
Because I think it's not good to live a double life. You are saying one thing, you are doing something different. I don't think you can live in a comfortable way, in that sense, in that regard. Yeah.
They actually, those who are saying, they are doing what they are saying. And what they are doing and what they are saying are both bad, and they don't care about honesty, about being fair, about being men of integrity, about being men of fidelity and trustworthiness, about being men of their word. They don't see the reason why they should do that.
Then it's also a question
what's the importance of...
It's also a question of understanding certain spiritual laws, certain natural laws. That whatever man sows, so shall he reap. Because I know that there are many people who think that you can do all nature of wrong things
and get away with it.
But history and experience has shown that bad things always catch up with you.
There are those who die before they catch up with them.
Most times they'll catch up with those they have left behind.
That's true.
Most times. Yeah. 2, traditionally, even before the modern religions came, traditionally, a name was an important thing.
Yeah, reputation.
Reputation. Literally in all societies, in all communities. Therefore, you'd find that people would strive to do things that are, right, things that are good for the rest of societies. And in the process, they build trust with people around them.
Yes.
And that becomes, therefore, something that would be very, very important. And that regard, if people understand it that way, then you strive to fulfill it in your life. In the secular world, that would be the motive force for people to do things. One, because they're striving to live by the norms of society. Two, to leave a legacy.
Oh, yes.
Because a name, you can, if you can die and you find that generation after generation, that people are going to respect the children you've left and their children and all that. It's also, even before modern religion came, traditionally there would be that.
Yeah.
Even when people would be trying to go looking for wives or husbands, you'd find people trying to trace what is the background of this lady or this man.
What's the reputation of their family?
Are they thieves?
They night dancers?
Are they night dancers?
Are they hard workers?
Yes, exactly. So there would be that legacy, and that legacy is built, if it's the good things, they're built on the correct values. Yeah. Yeah, you can't run away from that. It's inherent. We are wired to be that way. But of course, we also have to understand that there's contention in the world. It's only people maybe who are spiritual who understand that because of that contention in the world, outside in the world that we live in, contention between right and wrong. When people who are growing and maybe they have been influenced in a different direction, and you find that the way what ordinary is inherent with them, that if they focused on it, they could grow it, and therefore they do what is right.
Yeah.
That if anything happens in their growing up, maybe because of a breakdown of morality in that society or whatever other situation they may have been confronted with, then they can be derailed and move in the wrong direction. And then that feeds on the other emotional nature of ours, because we have two. We have the positive and the negative.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you find that whatever has happened along your growth path, that something maybe creates one to become selfish. It's a negative emotion, and it's a very strong emotion.
It is.
And if someone takes that direction, then they will not look at anybody else. Therefore, it means they can't be fair, they cannot be just. And most times they won't even be honest. Because people who are selfish are looking at themselves and nothing else.
Yeah.
They are the center of the whole world. The whole world may not even exist in their own
fulcrum of life.
the fulcrum of life. So it's a two-way thing. You can, if one chooses to go in the wrong direction, I mean, we can see the turmoil in the whole world.
Yeah.
It's just because of that, nothing else.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So values are therefore very important because they help a man to build trust with people.
Yeah.
They help a man to gain credibility in life.
Yeah.
They help a man to build a name, a reputation for himself,
Yes.
thereby strengthening his own legacies.
Yes. And then society.
Yes. Strengthening society.
Stable families, stable communities, stable countries, and therefore a stable world. You divert from values, you'll have instability.
And that therefore leads me to my curious question that I've been having in my mind.
Yes.
You've been moving around the country as a leader of the political party that you lead, that you head, the Alliance for National Transformation, saying that the goal of the ANT is to build a values-based political organization that will transform the political culture of the country. How are values exactly connected with national transformation?
The problems we have right now in our country, and largely when you see even a significant number of other African countries, at the root cause of the problem is the lack of, a significant number of value-driven leaders. Most leaders are driven by selfish interests, and that's why they cause turmoil wherever they are. Now, to change that, you must have value-driven leaders to be in the majority in whatever party is going to lead the country. If out of 10, because you can't have 100%,
there will always be a rotten apple in the basket.
That's only going to be in heaven, not on this planet. But if out of 10 you have 7, 8.
Even Jesus out of 12,
Yes.
he remained with really 10. Simon Peter and Judas were something else.
No, Simon Peter corrected direction.
Somehow,
He
yes.
was overzealous, but but he learned the hard way.
Rest in
Eventually-
peace, Judas Iscariot.
Yeah, that one
Gone
completely
case.
lost direction. And by the time Peter, passed on, he just wanted to be hanged upside down.
Indeed. Indeed. He really corrected the path.
Yeah, corrected the path.
So values are really connected with national transformation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no shortcut. Just like the word says that whatever man sows, so shall he reap. So is a society, so is a country. A country that wants good fruit must plant seeds of good fruit.
Or it must first get a good fruit.
Yeah,
so that out of that good fruit, they can get some good seeds to plant for the next
It must
season.
be the leaders. Because a human being can only give you what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the nature of leaders is what gives the country what the country requires. If they want peace, if they want justice, if they want fairness, they want transparency in the management of national resources, they want equality before the law. Those are practices that can only come from leaders who have it in themselves, who can put it into practice. Not talk about it, because that's another problem. It's easy for all of us all the nice things like we do as politicians all over the globe. But the question is walking the talk. So, I hope there will be a consensus at some point. It doesn't have to be NT, it doesn't have to be any other party or whatever, but for us to reach a conclusion and have a consensus,
As
that,
a nation.
what, as a nation, if we want to chart a route moving in the correct direction, we must start looking for how leaders who have what to offer in that respect, who will be able to lead a country in terms of offering justice or creating an environment in which justice can be administered, in which there can be equality before the law, in which there can be transparency in the management of national resources. There must be men and women of integrity who work as a team across generations, across different ethnic groups, across different religious groups, because they are in all those areas they are there.
Indeed.
They congregate, in whichever party they congregate, become the majority, and therefore they can influence the direction of the country, build a new culture. There is no other formula. People may spend...
You're speaking with the finality
Oh, yes.
on this.
Yes.
There is no other formula.
None.
Sounds like the one who
So there are no other formula, but also which is linked, is where you have a dictatorship, but also wants to do the same things, and they don't listen to reason, they don't listen to this one, and they drive the country in that direction, as we have seen some of the countries do. Like we saw what happened in South Korea, like we have seen China. China is not a democracy.
So can we call that a values-driven dictatorship?
Of course, if we are going to find a dictatorship, but it's zero tolerant corruption, definitely they are being driven by values of honesty and integrity. Definitely, there's no doubt about that.
Yes.
Yes. Or if you're going to walk into an office and get a job, regardless of whether you have an uncle, an aunt, or nobody, whoever, you don't know anybody, but you get a job on merit. You go in an office, a government office, and you get a contract. You are put in your bid, and you don't pay anybody a bribe, but you get your contract.
Even regardless of your political affiliation.
That cannot be value driven. There's no you can have that. I mean, like Singapore, what they did, what Lee Kuan Yew did, but it wasn't a democracy.
It wasn't.
But there was zero tolerant corruption.
Yeah.
Clearly. And they had a mission to integrate the Singaporean society, because there were Malays, there were Chinese, and the Indians. So they built a meritocracy. It didn't matter who you were, Chinese
you
or
because
of
excellent.
your capabilities. Yes, that's the value. Yes,
it is indeed.
yes.
I am also a strong believer in what you've just mentioned, the issue of everything rising and falling on leadership, a values-driven leadership. Having said that, however, of recent I've been curious looking at another angle of this. Every time we are looking at the leaders.
Yes.
These leaders have followers.
Yeah.
These followers are in more places all the time than the number of leaders that are leading them.
Yes.
So if we keep looking at the leaders and we keep focusing on the leaders,
yes,
but I am at home mistreating my house girl.
yes,
I am at the workplace firing people
yes,
on wrong accounts. I am driving my car, hooting at everybody along the road, driving on the pavement, throwing the empty bottle of mineral water through the window in the middle of the road.
yes.
All those are violations of values by ordinary people every day.
Yeah.
Don't you think maybe we need to turn the torch and we look at the ordinary citizens who are even the majority, who are in more places than where the leaders occupy geographically? Maybe there could be a better chance at changing than where the leaders are?
Well, most times when societies find themselves at crossroads, and it happens quite a number of times, there is a point at which you find the society has lost certain values that would propel it in the correct direction.
Yeah.
And then you find them, moving in a state of being directionless almost. But I think even for that society to move from that point and start moving in a correct direction, again, normally there are leaders within that society who are propelled.
Yeah.
And when they move in the correct direction, the tendency always is that society follows and they start rebuilding.
So there is a reason why they are called leaders.
You can never
they are
escape.
called leaders because there is another group called followers. So
is,
if somebody leads, somebody will follow.
It's inescapable.
In other words,
I think it's how God created human beings. I think we have to be led different types.
It reminds me
So
of
there's
the
a head
video
of the family, there's a man who's the head of the family, then there's a clan leader, and then there is, now there are countries, that's why you find them coming in different titles. There are emperors. When society are not yet evolved to where we are, then you find presidents, prime ministers, whatever. At the end of it all, there has to be a leader. And the direction the leader takes most times is the direction the society takes. Because you can even see the African countries. I have never read any book or done research. It's just from my own observations. Maybe they are correct, maybe they are not. But I have a belief that the countries, literally took the character of the post-independence leaders.
Oh.
Yes.
So whoever was the post-independent leader
influenced the character of politics.
Leader, influenced the character
of politics.
Okay.
I look at a country like Botswana, you find someone like Sasere Sekama, he basically could have remained a monarchy like Swaziland has been for a long time, or Lesotho.
Eswatini.
They were the majority, but the Swana the majority. But he chose to start building Botswana as a modern state. And really translated what were traditional values into the modern Botswana. And it's a stable country.
So the traditional values were actually the crucible of the modern civilization that we now see there.
Yes. Stability, tolerance. And basically looked at building their country, the manner in which they've been using the resources. They've had changes of presidents. I think it's been the only thing that hasn't happened is one party to replace another. That hasn't happened yet. I hope they will be able to manage that at whatever point that comes. You see a country like Tanzania, and you see the humility of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the selflessness. He wasn't about personal grandeur and
Tanzania took on that
and
character.
pomp and glory, and he built Tanzania. Tanzania is a nation. Clearly, Tanzania is built because of how Nyerere was as a human being.
And that makes me curious about Uganda. Our post-independence leader was the Dr. Apollo Milton Obote.
I can tell you.
What was his character that we could say Uganda took on?
In Uganda. And you can see it now. Deception.
Is that so?
And manipulation became a culture. I mean, you'd hear it in the West. How we use talk. My background is in UPC, so I hope the UPC people can't think I'm just spotting, wrong accusations against them. But you could hear changa changa,
Oh, changa changa, which is more like.
Yes.
What should I call it? What should I call it?
It's like it's real manipulation.
Yes. Yes.
Play tricks.
Deception. Being a trickster.
And it will take you where you want to go. And leaders have grown up in that. And I think General Museveni learned a lot from UPC when he operated from there. Because the deception has continued building. And we are now here having a national culture where literally people think that deception, lies, manipulation are part of politics. To think about politics in a different way is taken as if you are simply being naive.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the only experience we have.
Yeah. That's what we've seen.
But even in Botswana, I mean, as we have already seen in Botswana, where you see other countries which are developed. I'm giving Botswana because it's on the African continent. Where you can have honesty, you can have transparency, you can have tolerance rather than manipulation. You can discuss issues, you have disagreements, and know that someone believes this, Muntu believes that.
You disagree on
principle.
Yeah. And you stay friends.
Yes. Absolutely.
And you still work together towards a certain direction that is for the common good.
You are living within the same community.
That must be out of a heart filled with values. And you've really made a case for values.
And then you look at like Kenya, for it, they were about literally money. And you can see Kenyan politics is just about making money, business driven. Yes. And I think that must have been after the character of their the late Jomo Kenyatta, because it was about business, basically. It's business which drives politics in Kenya.
Maybe that's why even Kenya is one of the biggest economies around this region.
So
probably
Kenya
that has driven them towards an entrepreneurial spirit.
In that regard,
makes
definitely.
them thrive economically.
Yeah, in that regard, yes. But also, I think the direction they took, unfortunately, but there seems to be signs now of change of direction. Kenyan politics was ethnic based.
Even up to now.
Yeah.
Largely.
There are signs that almost seem to be moving in a new direction. We really hope and pray that they'll be able to maintain that path.
All right.
Yeah.
So, from that aspect of really making a case that values impact or are related to or related with national transformation, what do you say to those men who say values don't feed me? I need to put food on my table. The situation is tough. Values won't feed me. Values won't pay school fees for my children.
Then it becomes a jungle.
Survival for the fittest.
Yeah, then we are like in a national park, where a lion will eat an antelope, and an antelope has no recourse to justice. Because there it is, who is stronger. So that in that regard, everybody must fend for themselves. But how can society be like that?
Isn't it what it is?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So someone who says something like that is because they have not found themselves in a situation where the lion is eating them.
Oh, they've been the lions eating the antelopes. They have not been in a situation where they are the antelopes.
Yeah, but at times they will also reach a point where they are going to be eaten. Most times. I mean, look at what's happening like in a cartoon. Who knows who's going to get killed tonight?
Nobody.
It doesn't matter whether you are an officer of the army or whoever you are. If there's fighting on your street, it erupts. You don't know. A bomb may fall in your house.
Yeah. I remember in 2009.
You may be a business person, you may be whatever you are. When there's turmoil, there's turmoil. Anybody becomes vulnerable. Yeah. So that's the end result of people who think like that. Yeah.
So what would make such a man who says values don't feed me, what would make such a man have a change of heart to start looking at a life of values and embracing it? What would make him change his heart?
Through constant and continuous discussions by those who know that values are a critical factor in the advancement of society. Keep on raising issues, bringing examples where, because all these countries which are developed, where you find there's peace, where you find that there is stability, there is certainty, all of them are rooted in the foundation of values. They are not perfect, but at least there are things that they concentrate on. That you'll go to court and you'll get justice. You know? I mean, if someone comes and takes your house and you cannot get justice in court, really, even if you are someone who has thrived and you have built that house, but now time has come, someone has taken your house. And then you say, will I eat values? But getting justice in court is because of values.
Yeah.
Maybe or you have a son, you have sent them to school, they have come, they don't have a job, and you find they cannot get a job unless you bribe. Or unless they know someone in government or in a department of government. Because having fairness in terms of recruitment is rooted in values.
Of course.
Where you don't have to know anybody, you don't have to pay anybody.
As long as you have the capacity, the excellency, the competence.
Because a team of leaders has built a meritocracy. Where someone can come from the poorest of families, but they have access to education, and if they have access to good education, it's because of a value system. And if they get sick along the way, and they go to hospital, and they get treated, and you don't have to sell your land, that's because of their values. That the health system that is good, that is functioning, is because it's established in a system that puts values first. And then they finish university, and they go get a job, you find they have become PSCs, or they can even become ministers if they go into politics. Not because anybody knew them, but because there's a system that has fairness.
I hear you.
That operates on the basis of transparency. Those are values.
They are. Where we are, I hope you appreciate what I'm about to say. There are men out there. They really want to practice these values. But they are struggling with them, genuine, innocent struggle. I have heard a number of stories spoken about you over the last couple of decades of your service to this country, honorable service to this country. I remember somebody who said that he was in a banking hall, and you entered the banking hall, and you also lined up with them. You were at the back of the line, and they couldn't believe that a whole army general can come in a bank and also line up with others. Another one talked about one time when you were in a jam driving, and you could do what we see others doing. You did not hoot at anybody, you stayed in the jam until you were set free to move. Another one, a lady, 2 years ago, wrote about when you were a member of the East African Legislative Assembly. And I think you went for some parliamentary session. Was it in Arusha where you used to sit? Where was that? And then I think it was after some days when it had already started. So when they gave out, I don't know if it was per diem or what, for seating allowance, that you returned some money because you said I did not work all the days, so I shouldn't be given the money for all the days. And there was, quote unquote, a scuffle of what they should do with this money. Probably for you it is easier. But there is a man watching us this evening. He tries, he looks at you, you inspire him. He wants to try, but he's really struggling. How do you encourage that man?
You see, there are many who do things like I've done. There are many who also do things more than I've even done. But I get a sense, the unfortunate thing is that people know about me because I'm in politics. There are many more people who just do more things than I do, but they are not exposed.
They just don't have the visibility.
They don't have the visibility that I do have for purposes of people finding out, how does this person live, blah, blah. Because when we're in politics, we get exposed to so many people. Now, the only area of weakness I think we have is that men and women of integrity are scattered. So they don't have impact yet.
Because they are not together.
They are not together. So one hopes through different ways that they can link up and expand their areas of influence as teams, wherever they are, so they can start changing the environment in which we are.
Okay.
Because there are those who may not stand on their own under pressure. But when the environment is changed, then the environment gives them support. Because many break down because it's like a jungle. So people reach a conclusion that, you know what, here, if I don't just do anything, I'm not going to survive. But if you find that there is an environment where even the weakest knows that nobody's going to eat them. For example, if an entrepreneur knows that the lion cannot eat them because there is a warden,
Yes.
you know, and there is a manner in which all animals are living in safety, then that sense of vulnerability ceases. And therefore, even those who are weak, they can't stand on their own, now are supported. And then they grow, and it becomes a new culture. Yeah, because we know countries where people are good. Not because they are strong by themselves, but because they are living in an environment where the values we are talking about are the dominant force.
Yeah.
Because here, I mean, like lining up, people look at it as almost something out of the normal. But in societies which are more stable
And organized.
it's the most normal thing.
Yes.
Actually, if you come, whoever you are, and jump the line, it's what is seen as abnormal. You know? So it's just a change of culture, and then all those things will be, they seemingly normal now, which ordinarily is abnormal, there'll be a shift.
The normal abnormal.
Yes. That's what needs to change.
Okay. So that man therefore needs to change his environment and put himself in a climate that can enable him to stand stronger on the values.
To be
he professes.
supportive, at least be supportive.
Find support.
Supportive of those whom they think that, you know, these are the right team of people that can change this society and put in the correct direction.
Are the men of values.
Yes. And then therefore, when that starts happening, it becomes supportive of all other individuals. Yes. I mean, you see countries like the Scandinavian countries are a model that is quite, I really hope they maintain that direction. Countries like Finland, like Norway, like Sweden, country like New Zealand is not part of the Scandinavian, but it's also more or less that same culture. They may not be super rich, but on the happiness index, they are, you know, up there. You know, where a person is in a then they know that they're not going to be eaten, even if they feel that they're ordinary people, but there's no like lion-like people who are roaming all over the place that can just take them out. Someone comes and takes your vehicle, takes your property, and you know you don't have no recourse to justice.
Okay.
Well, you know you have your rights, you have your freedoms, they're observed. It doesn't matter whether this one is a prime minister, or is a president, or is a commander of an army, or chief of police, or whatever. I am just an ordinary citizen, but before the law, we are equal.
The same.
We're the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
As we end this program, briefly, what's your message for the men out there that are actually men of values? What's your message to them, especially who are living in a country where the crooked are praised and the upright are mocked? What's your message to the men of values that are watching this program as we end the program?
We can't be islands in our own houses where we stay. We live in a larger society. And therefore, what happens outside on society affects us. So, if we are men and women of integrity, it's not enough to remain wherever we are, wherever in our workplaces, and forget about politics. Politics is at the core of how society functions. And therefore, we must do everything humanly possible to influence the nature of politics. We don't have to be there directly, but there are many ways in which you can influence the direction of politics. Look at men and women of integrity. Back them up. If, for example, you scan the environment and you don't see any party where there are such men and women, try and work out ways of how you can float a party and have those people you believe in go there, lead it, and back them up, give them resources, give them all things which are necessary, so that at some point that party, or hopefully there can be even more than one, really, that it can take the center stage of changing the direction of politics. At least as Alliance for National Transformation, we are trying to build around that path to attract as many as we can, men and women of values, who are value-driven, men and women of integrity, because we know they are there. But unfortunately, most of them shy away from politics. What I'd like to, bring to your attention is that politics is at the core of our lives, as long as we are on this side of life.
All right.
Before we exit and go wherever we would have prepared ourselves to go. We have to be engaged in influencing the direction of politics as long as we are still on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. What would you like to be remembered for as we close this program? Picture 50 years from now as
Yes.
people read in the books of history and they are being told there once lived a man
Yes.
who was called General
Yes.
Greg
Yes.
Mugisha Muntu.
I've never
In
thought
Uganda.
about that.
What would you want them to remember you for? What do you want this world to remember you for? And we close this program.
I have never thought about that, but what comes to my mind right now is the man who tried all things, all things humanly possible to walk by faith.
A man who tried
Yes,
all things humanly possible
yes,
to walk by faith.
yes.
Thank you for watching the Inspired Family Leader program with Samuel A. Bakutana today, as we have been talking about becoming a man of values. And today you've heard it from the General Gregory Mugisha Muntu. He wants to be remembered as a man who did everything humanly possible to live by faith. That alone is a value system. I pray and I hope that you too will live a life of values. As a father in your home, you will deal with your children on the basis of good values. As a husband to your wife, you will live with your wife on the basis of good values. You will not abuse your wife. You will love her as a precious treasure in your life. You will deal with her from that angle of values. As a man in the workplace, you will do your work based on professional values. As a leader, a man in politics, in governance, you will lead the people in the country or wherever you are at whichever level based on good values. As a man in the media, television, radio stations, newspapers, as you are writing an article for the newspaper, as you are preparing the news for the broadcast, you will do all that when you have that remembrance of values, good values. Because as a media person, you are determining the opinion formation and the eventual direction of the country. May we be men of values. Until next time, live exemplarily, love authentically, and lead relationally.